Now, Biden also objects, does not want this coming in, to the entire monthly Wells Fargo bank statements in September, October, November coming in. Now, what's on those things? Adult entertainment expenses, hotel expenses, and other lifestyle charges. Wonder what those are. Hunter Biden is charged with possession of a firearm by a prohibited person, can't be on crack, and by guns. And he made 2 false statements under these 2 subsections. Now, you might have some criticisms with those subsections. You might say, look, the Second Amendment doesn't say that you don't have a right to keep and bear arms unless you're sober. Like, that's not a qualifier there. You want to be high on methamphetamines? This is America, damn it. The defense had lined up another Columbia University-based psychiatrist. They would have come in to try to poke holes in the prosecutor's assertions that Hunter knew he was an addict. Crackheads are not in their right mind, you know, they don't have any intent, whatever. Hunter Biden is in trial. Oh, how the tables have turned. Now he wants to hide all of his crack videos from the jurors, even though most of the world has seen them. Of course, the media covered them up back during the 2020 election, but they're out there. We know he's a crackhead. He knows he's a crackhead. He wrote about it. He told us all about it in his autobiography. And now the question is, well, were you on drugs when you purchased a gun and signed a form saying that you're not on drugs? Well, turns out government says he was. And we've been covering this for a long time. And this case was a case that really should have never come about. They were trying to sweep this under the rug. They had a non-prosecution agreement at the outset. It turned into a plea deal, which got diverted because Hunter threw a hissy fit when they didn't make it very clear that he had immunity. It was a handshake immunity deal, but he couldn't recognize that. And now we're in trial. And Hunter, so nervous that he had his mommy show up with him so that he didn't get too scared. And here's what it looked like. Vince Langman grabbed this one for us over on X and says, oh, look, the doctor is in the house. Dr. Jill Biden, you see here in blue, walking up with Hunty Poo. And here's what it looks like. Here's the scene. There's Doctor. Don't know if we had Hunter there. Was that Hunter? That was not Hunter. All right. And that is what the scene looked like. Now, it turns out it was also her birthday. And here is what that looked like. But here's what Joe said. I'm so proud to be Jill's husband. Happy birthday, Jilly. Which is appropriate because we call Hunter Hunty because he's so weird. All right. So Jill Biden, Jilly Hunty, Bideny, they're all just having a grand old time. So it's a nice day for Hunter to have mom come to court. The Biden family wrote this out and says, here is the statement from President Joe Biden. Writes, I am the president, but I am also a dad. Jill and I love our son, and we are so proud of the man he is today. I think that's one of those things you have to say as a parent. I don't have any kids, but I think that's just like, yeah, okay. Hunter's resilience in the face of adversity and the strength he has brought to his recovery are inspiring to us. A lot of families have loved ones who have overcome addiction. Yeah, and know what we mean. As president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases, but as a dad, I have boundless love for my son, confidence in him, and respect for his strength. Our family has been through a lot together, and Jill and I are going to continue to be there for Hunty and our family with our love and support. Signed, Jilly and Dad. All right, so that's the White House statement. That's what they just dropped out. Now, we're going to go through and see what's happening. We'll go through all of the updates on what unfolded in court today in Delaware. But before we do, let's see what these most recent filings look like, because 2 things dropped before the trial got underway. You can see this one came in just a day ago, and it was on the eve of trial, right before the jury was being selected. Hunty sends this one in. He's objecting. This is ridiculous. And David Weiss, of course, is the government prosecutor who is bringing this case. It was all rigged from the beginning. So this is a wild case to follow because it should have never really come about. They had a whole deal in place. It got a little bit off keister there a bit, and then it escalated and just got worse every time. And Hunter's lawyers, and I think Hunter himself probably are responsible for this deal not working. They should have just signed on the dotted line. This whole thing would have been done. And here is what they do not want the jurors to see. So these are lawyers for Hunty Poo, and they say, Hunty, he files these objections. He doesn't like these exhibits right on the eve of trial. He says, following our initial production, we notified the government, but they've made a few changes to its lists. And now we don't want this stuff to come in front of the jury. And so now Hunty Poo, he seeks an order precluding the government from admitting this stuff. Here are the items that Hunter wants precluded. excluded. Pursuant to these, Biden objects to the text messages from these rows coming in because these occurred from January 2019 to March, and they're beyond the relevant period when Hunter purchased a handgun, and they're more prejudicial than probative. And we're going to see that a lot. This is Rule 403, very common. It's a balancing test like two sides of a seesaw. Is it more hurtful than it is helpful, or is it more helpful than it is hurtful? Is it more probative than it is prejudicial, or prejudicial than it is probative? They say it's way too harmful. It's not helpful enough. So to the extent that the government wants to argue these messages are probative of his drug use, they're cumulative of what's already in there. So it's more crackhead messages. So don't do crack, kids. But that's what Hunter was doing. Whatever in your city, whatever that looks like, that's where it is. To the extent that the government wants to argue these messages, it's already cumulative. We don't need it again. Also, this one they want gone. Say, pursuant to this one, Biden also objects to the use of this video. Because it's dated more than 2 months after the period when Hunter bought the handgun. And this video has Hunter in the nude, which is more prejudicial than it is probative. It is actually, that is true. It's very prejudicial to all of us and those poor jurors who have their eyes blinded out by the first wiener. Oh, gosh. Then probative under Rule 403. Because this evidence is cumulative of other documentary evidence, other Hunter wieners floating out there, will introduce, we do not think it should be displayed to the jury. It's true. Jurors are going to need to have a rough realization. Wait a minute. I voted for that guy. I voted for his dad. What? It'll be the first time they've ever seen any of this because our media covered it up last time. And it wasn't just our media, by the way. It was the FBI and the DOJ on top of it. And the CIA, arguably, because they were the ones who were paying Kevin Morris. Or let me clear that up. Kevin Morris was being protected by them when the DOJ was investigating where his money was coming from. So they continue to say, pursuant to these, Biden also objects to this video because it's also prejudicial. And further, to the government also says that there's a voice in the background is Biden's. No, we don't think that's Biden's voice on the video background there. Now, Biden also objects to the use of this partially redacted photo that displays alleged drug paraphernalia, so more crack pipes from Hunter, because it's dated more than 4 months after the relevant period, and it's inflammatory because it's probably a crack pipe. This government evidence is also cumulative. Sorry, brother, no one's above the law, okay? This is evidence that comes in. Biden also objects to another crack pipe, also dated 5 months later. Does not establish where the photo was taken, who the owner of the smoking device is, who knows. It's also cumulative. Now, as defense counsel indicated that it would do, we also have excerpts from the memoir. Remember Hunter wrote about all this in his book because he's so arrogant? He just, well, I was crackhead and I regret it. And then he fake talks about sobriety. The government rejected Biden's additions, and therefore Biden objects to other additions to these excerpts. And here's what they want. Biden's additions on each page, so now we're fighting over what comes in from the book. He wrote in page 5, whatever this is, that deep descent came, and through the end of alone, I lost hope. So everything in this paragraph they want added. Incorporate the following sentences and the corresponding audiobook clips. They want to bring those in. So they want this. Also add in, I'd stayed sober since through the end of 6 major clients. So they're saying, oh, no. He was sober here for a little bit, and he might have been sober here. And the discussion quickly turned, and through the end of a couple of drinks afterward, whatever that sounds like. But he says, crazy as it sounds, something, on about my business. Addiction is so complex, something, money, emotional currency. Uncle Jimmy is my, and you can see. So he wants all of those added. They look like they're all added, and they say that's going to give us context. Now, Biden also objects, does not want this coming in, to the entire monthly Wells Fargo bank statements in September, October, November coming in. Now, what's on those things? Adult entertainment expenses, hotel expenses, and other lifestyle charges. Wonder what those are. As the parties have agreed to the authenticity of these bank records, then only those line items that are relevant should come in. And if you want to introduce other exhibits, let us know. Or government seeks to, Biden has no objection. Biden objects to these 3 photos. These photos are from Zoe Keaston's iPhone. They say these photos have no probative value. They're not relevant at all. The screenshots with Miss Keaston, whoever that is, and one photo of Mr. Biden sleeping, in which no drug paraphernalia is displayed or otherwise evidence, are not probative of drug use or drug purchasing or drug testimony. Any testimony from Miss Keaston about the nature of their interactions can be elicited on direct, and we don't need those photos. Okay, so one photo of him sleeping, so I don't know what her profession was. You might speculate on that one. But several photos they don't want coming in. So photo of Mr. Biden sleeping on this one. So she's taking photos of him. Photo of Mr. Biden on FaceTime. Another photo of Biden naked again with a tattoo on his back. The government has not provided its position on the relevance or the probative value. They say there is none. So don't let those photos photos come in. Accordingly, we also want these excluded and those excluded and these other items excluded. Sincerely, your friend, Abby Lowell, to the judge. So exclude those photos. There's no relevance. There's no probative value. Please keep it out of the trial. So we'll see what the judge does with this. Now, the judge did issue another order, and this one also came out right on the verge of trial. So let's take a look and see what's happening here before we get into the updates on the day. So this came in, skidding in on a Sunday night. Trial starts Monday. Boom. This one comes from the judge. He says, all right, listen, Judge Noriega, who has been amazing so far, honestly caught both sides in a total scam. The government was involved. The defense was involved. They wanted the court to be involved in the scam diversion plea deal, and she didn't bite, to her credit. It was really pretty outstanding that this happened this way, but here we are. She says, all right, here's the deal. To get a recap, Hunter Biden is charged with possession of a firearm by a prohibited person, can't be on crack, and by guns. And he made 2 false statements under these 2 subsections. Now, you might have some criticisms with those subsections. You might say, look, the Second Amendment doesn't say that you don't have a right to keep and bear arms unless you're sober. Like, that's not a qualifier there. It just says that's your right. You want to be high on methamphetamines? This is America, damn it. He says, presently, this is the judge before the court, is the government's motion in limine. So the government wants to create some rules around the case. In this case, they're seeking to admit. So they're saying, let's clarify this. Motion in limine, sometimes you think of it as limit because oftentimes you're trying to limit testimony, and you can't say that witness can't come in, but it's really preliminary, limine from preliminary. So it's an early motion seeking to codify the rules of what's going to be happening in the trial. They get clarity on them. So in this case, the government wants to admit ATF form 4473 and to exclude a annotated version of this regular form and to exclude another form as irrelevant and as inadmissible. So this is ATF form 4473. This is not the Hunter one, but this is what it looks like. And you can see it's this one basically here, 4473, revised August 2023. So it's this form, and they're trying to basically just get this submitted. And you'll notice on this form, there's this checkbox that says, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana, any depressant, or any of these other things? Warning, marijuana, still unlawful. So are you an unlawful user of, yes or no? Hunty went over here and said, no, of course not. No, I'm not a crackhead, no. So he filled that form out. And now they're saying, we just want to submit that form. They also want to exclude an annotated version of this form. So this comes in, that comes out. Now, during the pretrial conference, the judge says, I granted an unopposed motion as to the admission of the certified form, a certified form. I reserved on the exclusion of the 2021. So I'm not going to answer that one yet. But Hunter opposes the motion to exclude the original form. He filed a response and submitted a supplemental. And in his supplemental, which is under seal, we have not seen that yet, to the extent that it discloses matters that are not public, like grand jury transcripts, a redacted public version will be filed in due course. So we haven't seen that. Now, in his supplemental, Hunter suggests he intended to seek the admission of additional exhibits, arguably from the 2021 form. The government filed a reply addressing the original opposition and the exhibits. Now, having reviewed the submissions, the judge says, I will grant the motion as follows. So it's the government's motion to seek to admit this form and to exclude another form. So some government victories here. Let's see. As noted above, the motion to admit form 4473 is unopposed, and the court's already made a preliminary determination that the records that were certified by the gun store, which is where Hunter got the gun, StarQuest Shooters and Survival Supply, sounds awesome. StarQuest Shooters, are you kidding me? Attached to the government's motion as Exhibit 1 and certified form 4473 are admissible. So we're not even going to fight about the form. There's a records exception to hearsay. It's not an out-of-court statement. Self-authentication of domestic records. It's a regular form used in the regular course of business, and it's self-authentication of records from electronics. So all of these things say this form can come in. The rules say it's coming in. Now, the court also finds, sorry, Hunter, that the 2021 form is irrelevant and inadmissible under the federal rules, and they excluded that form at trial. But even if the form were admissible, the court finds it's excluded under the rules of evidence 403 because any probative value, that balancing test again, it arguably has is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusion of the issues, and misleading the jury. And so we don't know what's actually on that form, but maybe we'll find out. Now, we also have a footnote that says, here, the government has stated it intends to call this fella. His name is Gordon Cleveland. So Gordon's going to come in. He worked for the gun store. He's going to say, when he comes in and testifies, that he watched Hunter fill out the form. He's the guy standing behind the counter saying, I watched him. He checked no to question 11E. The same question about the guns. About, well, the form was different at the time, I guess. Now on this form, it is F, 11F. The one we just looked at was 11F. So maybe on the earlier form, it was 11E, about being an unlawful user or addict. Both the certified form and the 2021 form have the same mark X, responding to no on question 11E. Now, the addition of DE vehicle registration to a different section of the 2021 form after the defendant filled it out does not have any tendency to make those two facts, which are a consequence of, in determining the charges, that he filled it out more and that he said he wasn't an unlawful user or addicted to a controlled substance, more or less probable. So it sounds like they filled out the form, like Hunter signs everything, and then he writes in Delaware vehicle registration, which is maybe looking at the ID, Delaware vehicle registration. He adds it later, and they want that included for some reason. So the court also agrees with the government that Hunter's conspiratorial theory about doctored forms and currying favor with the government is unsupported rhetoric, which would be prejudicial and confusing to the jury. And so we're not going to allow you to say that this is some conspiratorial form, Hunty. Now, questioning, testimony, and evidence or argument, including but not limited to these additional exhibits, are also excluded. So they want to talk about political bias, but no, that's not coming in because such questioning and testimony and evidence and argument are not relevant to any of this stuff. It's unduly prejudicial, Hunter, and it invites jury nullification. And we're not going to be doing that in our courtroom. So this is taking place in Delaware. The court agrees with the government that the political views expressed in 2020 by the gun shop owner, who did not witness him fill out Section A of the form, are sideshows aimed at tainting and confusing the jury. So you can read into that one. What they're doing now is they're saying, well, this guy who owns the gun store, Polymer, he's a Trumper. He loves Trump. He's the one who filled out the form. Hunter actually didn't answer that question. Yes, I am a crackhead on the form. And this guy changed it because he wanted to go after him and set him up. So that's their defense. Yeah, right. All right. So that is what the judge has sent in. And now let's get some updates and see what took place at trial. This is where it starts 8 hours ago on the day one, trial, Hunter, jury selection. First Lady Jill Biden enters the courtroom Monday morning, blue suit, taps Hunter on the shoulder. I'm so proud of you, Hunter, for showing up here today. Everything's going to be okay. Your mama's here. Jill Biden and Hunter, surrounded by Secret Service, greeted each other with hugs. On her birthday, Hunter's wife, Melissa Cohen Biden, is also in attendance. There's Jill, showed up to support her crackhead son, maybe bringing him some more cocaine. Trial begins. Large pool of Delaware residents sworn in, all coming in for jury selection. They're asked questions about their political activities. Questions pop up about gun control and addiction. The judge asks all the jurors about their impartiality, and so on. As we just covered, we know that Hunter had some setbacks. The ruling from the judge just struck down some of Hunter's defenses, granting a request from David Weiss to block one of Hunter's expert witnesses from testifying, not coming in. The defense had lined up another Columbia University-based psychiatrist. They would have come in to try to poke holes in the prosecutor's assertions that Hunter knew he was an addict. Crackheads are not in their right mind. You know, they don't have any intent to form. They're not forming intent. Whatever. The judge also blocked Hunter Biden's lawyers from using what they thought was a key evidence from when he filled out the form, which was tweaked, they say, in 2021 by the gun store employees. So they might have added something to the form. So they said, oh, you manipulated the form. So Hunter's there, shows up in court. Judge blocks key evidence. We already are familiar with those two rulings. Joe Biden put out a statement, says, I love my son, smartest man I know. But now we get into jury selection. Judge Noriega's on the bench. Individual jurors are coming into the courtroom. A potential juror is in the courtroom, says, Your Honor, I think Americans have a God-given right to own guns. He's excused. Sorry. Won't participate in the case after he said he couldn't be impartial in judging the case. So that guy, right, might have said, this law's ridiculous. You want to be a crackhead, meth head, cocaine addict, whatever. You have a total right to own a gun. You still need to defend yourself, even if you are a crackhead. And what is our government doing? Dictating who gets to own a gun or not. Who gets to decide if you're a crackhead? Suddenly everybody's a crackhead. You think that, Anthony Fauci is going to appropriately dictate addiction, or are they going to target certain political opponents and say, oh, sorry, you guys are all suddenly crackheads? We know that they called Trump MAGA extremists, Trump supporters MAGA extremists. They basically terrorists. So perhaps they would use that as justification to also remove gun rights. So you can understand how you could get irritated about this. But anyways, that might have been a pro-Biden juror. Some of the potential jurors who were still in the jury pool include a woman whose sister went to prison for drug-related offenses, and another woman whose brother is in rehab. Those might be friendly jurors. Still in the jury pool, right? Hey man, my brother went through this. I get it. One potential juror who's still in the pool said the laws aren't structured strong enough. Anyone can get a gun. That's kind of what the Democrats say. So it's curious. I wonder what Dr. Jill Biden says about that. Dr. Jill Biden probably agrees with that, huh? When asked about the Second Amendment, she sure thought that she could judge the case fairly. So it's probably a pro-government juror right there. Other jurors said that they know about the case from news reports, but did not have a detailed understanding of the case. One woman who volunteered for Hillary Clinton was pressed by the judge over whether she could remain impartial. She says, I don't see any relation between the politics, she said, telling the judge she would be fair. Hillary Clinton supporter. Wonder if she's going to convict the president's son when Trump is running. Strange. So we're going to see a little crossover here. Democrats are usually Second Amendment lunatics. They want everybody to have no protection at all, just call the police that they control. And now the Democrats are going to have to say that Hunter didn't violate any of those laws. His conduct was, I guess, perfectly acceptable. You can get guns when you're addicted to drugs and then have your wife or ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever she was throw it into a dumpster outside a convenience store. And that's perfectly acceptable behavior. So the judge questioned all of them and the conversation continued. This is what the scene looks like outside the courthouse. Judge carried on. Now 250 people have been called. 250 residents. They're going to be whittled down to 12 jurors. Delaware, one of the smallest states in the country, Biden family looms large over there. As part of the selection process called voir dire, prospective jurors will be asked if they can stay impartial. Can you keep an open mind about Hunter, even if they've been eligible to vote? Other questions touch on the highly politicized atmosphere. Here's one question. Do you believe Hunter Biden is being prosecuted in this case because his father is the president? Or coming from the other side, whether they think he is not being prosecuted for other crimes because his father is president, which is the point I was about to say. Yeah. He's being prosecuted for this traffic offense because daddy's the president. Anybody else had a litany of these things who was not backed by the CIA? Well, yeah, they'd probably be in prison for a long time. So they continue. One potential juror says the Trump trial made him think prosecutors charge cases based on politics. Smart juror. That's true. One man was excused from the jury after saying that the Donald Trump trial in New York made him think prosecutors bring this stuff based on politics. True. He had also said he might not be able to judge the Hunter case fairly because some of his loved ones are struggling with addiction. So that's true. A lot of people are struggling with addiction in this country. A lot more than should be, for sure. A woman in the jury pool told the judge that she is a bartender and periodically served Hunter's uncle at the bar. Delaware's tiny. They've been in charge there for a long time. I'm sure they're running into each other all over the place. And that's why Jill Biden also shows up with Secret Service. And we'll see if other people show up too, to constantly remind everybody, all those Delaware jurors, that the Biden family is there. Another woman was excluded from serving on the jury after she had a negative view of the Biden family. What's your opinion? That's not a good one. Sorry, she said. Yeah, good call. Both sides agreed she shouldn't be eligible to serve, so she's gone. Now, another juror, the one who said that this is a political prosecution of Trump in New York, is gone. They said that they're going to strike 23-year retired veteran of the Wilmington Police Department. He thinks Trump, but not Democrats, is a victim of political prosecution. He said, yeah, the Trump trial in New York, the dossier, referring to the Steele PP fake tape, made him believe that prosecutors pursue cases for political reasons. True. Hunter Biden's lawyer, Abby Lowell, also asked a potential juror if Democrats are ever plagued by this, and Abby used a strike. The man also recently said that he recently donated to the RNC, that he was previously supporting a candidate who ran against Beau Biden. So the conservatives on these juries are very talkative. You notice that? They're very talkative. I don't know why they're so talkative. The Democrats are not talkative on these things. So this carries on. Now, House Republican impeachments have gone nowhere because they're not doing anything useful, and no one really is paying attention to that. Potential jurors also recounts hearing about Hunter's original plea deal. Yeah, he says. Yeah, there was an agreement for a negotiated plea. A lot of people were screaming and yelling about it, the man said. And then boom, they decided to stop it. He's eligible to serve. He remembers the deal. The potential juror said one of his nephews got addicted to drugs after being prescribed opioids after a football accident. He was a mess. Better now. Yeah, and how does that impact people? Do they have sympathy for Hunter or not? Be very curious. Democrats reject comparisons between Trump's conviction and Hunter's trial. On Capitol Hill, they're all melting down. Raskin says Democrats are not out there saying that Hunter Biden's trial is a farce, it's a fraud, it's rigged. We're not attacking the justice system because it's already been rigged. It's already been rigged in your favor. It is a fraud in your favor. It's in your favor. This is a traffic ticket type of case for someone who's committed a lot more serious and heinous offenses. So the Democrats are playing cover. 25 people have qualified for the jury pool. Whoa, we're getting this done pretty quickly. Selection process still underway as of this moment, but both sides can still strike. Eventually it will be narrowed down. Potential jurors are also rejected because they've got anti-gun leanings or because they're pro-Trump. Both sides agreed to dismiss a Trump critic who expressed support for banning all guns. She says the U.S. should have have stricter gun laws here. We should make it harder to kill children at schools. And we should not have rapid-fire weapons that kill a lot of people at once. I'd ban them all together, to be honest, this little communist said. And after Trump won in 2016, she joined a resistance group, there it is, and later supported Democratic candidates. So she's just a good Democrat, resisting, yeah. I wonder if she's for the two wars that they've gotten us into recently, too. Another juror was excused from the jury pool after he said he couldn't judge the case fairly. The juror was a Fox News and Newsmax viewer. Another very loud conservative, very loud. Yeah, I love Fox. I love Sean Hannity. Oh, you're going to strike me? Oh, weird. Both right-wing networks have extensively covered Hunter scandals and legal woes over the years. Judge Norica thanked the man for being honest. Thanks. Now, the Democrats were like, oh, crap, I'll just sit here and shut up. The other Democrats were like, should we be honest too? Shut up. Just shut up over there. So far, 34 potential jurors have qualified, with 2 more needed to advance to the next step. Let's see, do we get them today? And wow, a historian says this trial is like an albatross around the president's neck. And yes, that old visual. This is a historic moment for the United States and the history of the presidency. The trial's an albatross around the president's neck. It weighs very heavily on his psyche, said Brinkley. Hopefully Joe's okay. Now, that is from the historian. One potential Hunter juror used to play squash with Joe Biden's late son, Beau. Yeah, everyone knows the Biden. He's been the senator and then the vice president for like 4 decades. I remember how it was with McCain in Arizona. It was crazy. McCain was everywhere. As jury selection moves into the final phase in the Hunter Biden gun trial, one man told the judge he knows the Biden family fairly well, couldn't be impartial. The man added that he'd played squash with Joe Biden's late son, Beau. He was dismissed. Many jurors said they know about the case generally, but not the details. Someone says, I live in Delaware, one person told the judge. You can't swing a cat without hearing something. Another woman said, yeah, Wilmington's a small place. Yeah, everyone's paying attention. And boom, the jury, my friends, has been seated in the Hunter Biden trial. So that is now done. The jury that will hear the case against Hunter has been selected. The panel includes 12 jurors, 4 alternates. Opening statements are expected tomorrow. Be sure you're subscribed. We'll go through it. Now, here's what the jury looks like. 6 men, 6 women on the panel, even splits, reading the preliminary instructions to the newly minted jury, which was sworn in on Monday. And you notice, I don't know if the full jury instructions, but it's pretty curious. We have the jury instructions that we're reading here. Now, the judge has confirmed the opening statements will happen Tuesday morning. The jury includes 6 men, 6 women, the majority of whom are black. The majority of whom of the 6 men and 6 women, or of the 6 women? Interesting. Now, the seated jurors include a woman who said she's lost many friends to drug addiction, as well as gun owners, including one who believes that people who smoke marijuana should still be allowed to own firearms, right? So that guy might, like, this could be a hung jury, man, easily. And that would just be, I think, devastating for the Democrats. If they got a hung jury on this case, or even an acquittal, and Trump got convicted on 34, this case is way stronger than anything they ever presented in the Trump trial. All right, so we got our jury, my friends. 6 women, 6 men, the majority black. Hunter Biden leaves court after the jury is selected. He's out of there. He departed the federal building. It has adjourned for the first day. He walked out with his wife, Melissa Cohen Biden. First Lady Dr. Jill also exited the building about 15 minutes later. Hunter made it through his first court. So opening statements are starting on Tuesday. FBI agent will be testifying, and we, of course, will be here covering it. This is the shot from inside, Judge Norica, and this is Dr. Jill in court. So there's Hunter with his glasses off. Wonder what his blood results look like right now. Abby Lowell talking with some government prosecutor, Judge Norica up there as well. Those are the courtroom sketches. Now, the trial is beginning. White House says that it's not going to interfere with Daddy's amazing leadership of America. The trial against Joe Biden's son, Hunter, will absolutely not interfere with anything. Karine was gaggling aboard Air Force One, said the president of the United States always puts the American people first. I've got nothing to share about this trial. And so that is it on the day over there. We had a little bit of reporting from the scene. This is this news agency explaining how the Trump jurors just eject themselves, or the anti-Biden jurors just eject themselves. Here's CNN.
An interesting development where Abby Lowell, one of Hunter Biden's lawyers, signaled that he's going to seek to strike one particular potential juror who told the court that he believes that Donald Trump, but not Democrats, are victims of political persecution. He said that the Trump trial in New York in the last few weeks and other things, including the Trump-Russia investigation, led him to believe that prosecutors pursue cases for political reasons. And when Abby Lowell asked him whether Democrats have ever suffered the same fate, and he says not that he was aware of. Again, his is a former Wilmington police officer who is one of the 250 people called to the courthouse today to serve potentially on this this jury. We expect
All right, so Trump supporters, people who might be disfavorable to the defense, in this case, the defense is Hunter, all ejecting themselves or getting booted from the panel. We'll see what opening arguments look like as we continue to cover this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. We'll be covering this. We'll also be covering the Trump cases. And so if you want updates on what is happening with Trump's New York appeals and his sentencing, that's coming up next in our very next segment.